You're a New Yorker, but I know a small secret, you have your own private key at the Hotel Montefiore. That means you are quite familiar with Tel Aviv. And I would really love to hear your tips that you would offer Tel Aviv in promoting innovation from what you see around the world, from your experience.
I actually think it's the reverse. I think that the world really just needs to understand what works here in Tel Aviv. Because there's a lot going on. I do travel a lot. I forgot how many cities I've been to, but there have been a few. And every city has something. I remember in the 90s and going into the 2000s in Scandinavia. I remember going to Iceland for the very first time and apologizing. I came from New York because it was a conference about the future and I lived in the present. And it was really the future there. There was an incredible amount of bandwidth. A lot of the technologies and voice over IP were highly deployed. And it was wow. And the one thing which I'm not surprised about as far as the startups here is that the amount of, if you're a city, one of the things you want to serve the people is to help them not be lonely, right? And there's, not that there's social services needed to do so, but in an era where everyone can be connected in a very flat world, you also have a very flat city. You also have an opportunity for people who are otherwise shy or geeky or otherwise have issues to actually be discovered even hyper-locally. And I think that, I'm not surprised about some of the apps and services you're seeing deployed here which work other places, whether it's Get Taxi, and whether you have bike riding. Tel Aviv was not the first city to get bike riding. If I could put in a request, please get more comfortable bicycles. And it also allow the foreign credit cards to work on the bicycle rentals. But it forces you to find a friend to use their credit card. I think the technologies are amazing, but it's all about people at the end of the day. I mean, I know New York, before we had issues here, New York, we had Hurricane Sandy. And I can tell you that it was Twitter that basically replaced the 311 emergency communication services. It was crazy to see how many people were relying on the internet, even though we had lost wireless communication. We had, I think, what I was calling fixed mobile wireless. We had you cannot move from cell site to cell site when you lost power. But so many people who were so used to being connected were using out-of-band signals for emergencies. People who were down by the beach area, by the Rockaways, people whose houses were on fire, who do only one thing, was to scream for help. They were using the internet for help, and in most cases they found it. They were rescued. Well, and this was like incredible. So I learned from at least, in cases where people have a need to communicate and connect, their solutions are out there, but it also requires a certain level of comfort to use those platforms. But different cities around the world have their beauty. I think the one thing which you really didn't talk much about is the people. See, I think that the DNA of Tel Aviv, the issue you have, I was recently at the World Bank. The World Bank honored Israel with World Innovation Day, with Israeli Innovation Day, because they said in the 1970s, Israel was a borrowing nation. Now they're a member of OECD. And they wanted to understand, how do you take the Tel Aviv experience and how do you take what happened economically here in Israel and model it abroad and go to Moldova and go to other places. And I told the person who was talking all about monetary fund policies and talking about economics, I said, you forgot one thing, the biggest difference is you have to drop the D. It's not about fund, it's rocket, it's about the fund. And when you have a place where it's connected, where the people are feeling so connected, and the people come to the city, because it's the DNA of the city and the DNA of the people coalescing together, that offers an amazing cocktail mixture of innovation you've never seen before. If Moldova or other places are looking for this, they have to embrace, I believe, fun. I mean, there's something just amazing about creative energies, and it brings forward more positive creative energies together, and it's something which doesn't scale unless the people are attracted to. So it's not just pure technology and innovation, it's all about the people. And I can tell you that in cities I've been to where the fun seems to be, I haven't been to a place on earth that had more fun for me than Israel. And more particularly, it's about the fun you have even on a micro level here. So that's something which is going to be hard to reproduce elsewhere. And as far as the rest of it goes, it's just a matter of evolution. I think Yossi is totally right about what he's seeing. I've been without an office, a permanent office, for several years myself, because who needs one? If we can connect in coffee shops around the world, that's where I hold my meetings, or in lobbies of hotels. I don't necessarily need a place. I have a phone number and it works. And as long as everything else is okay, we're evolving, right? And so when it comes to experiences, as long as we remember to allow people to connect, I mean, I think there's a very basic human element of a need to connect. And I think that it's something which we will reach out for in some ways. For some people, ICQ is a platform that a lot of people who are lonely to reach out and seek others. These days in a mobile world or a social world, you could be in a city of 400,000 people in front of everybody and still be alone. But we now, for the first time, have ways to have positive change to allow people to be connected and feel something beyond the technology. And I think that's part of why this is all working, and we're all discovering who we really are as people as we all evolve.